Hey, what's up, everybody? Sam and Eric are back. You just saw us the other week on a Power 30 and couldn't get enough of us, apparently. Or rather, Eric monologued so much that we didn't get to all your questions.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Oops.
I don't know.
So, we wanted to take a few minutes here and really go through some of the questions because there were a lot of good ones going through and reviewing that we felt we would be doing a disservice if we wouldn't answer those properly. So, I wanted to open this up, Eric, because we mentioned dad jokes at the beginning of
Well,
the last call, and nobody got their dad jokes.
Tate sent us a good dad joke.
Tate did send us a good dad joke, so I'll rattle this one off. So Tate sent in two peanuts were walking down the street. One was assaulted. Let that sink in.
Just let it go. That's nice. It's
All
a
right.
classic dad joke. I have to, keeping with current events, I'll just tell you that due to the quarantine, I'll only be saying inside jokes on this particular podcast. So
That's terrible.
people aren't here for dad jokes. Let's get in the meat
All
potatoes.
right. All right. So the topic that we talked about last week was around interchange, right? There's a lot of changes coming up in April. So we had a lot of questions about that. So we had a couple sent in here. It looks like from Miguel and Hank, both wanted some clarification, right? We talked about interchange increasing for a lot of these non-qualified rates for Visa. What does that look like with regards to level 3 interchange optimized rates?
Yeah, those are great questions. So Miguel and Hank, thank you for that. And in one sense, nothing's changing in the world of level 3, right? So requirements for level 3 aren't changing. Not seeing any significant, we're not really seeing any changes like in the rates itself. The significant change really, as we mentioned last week, is the standard or the floor is the standard rate or the floor is changing, right? So the most expensive rates are becoming more expensive. So that spread between the optimized and the not optimized is even more important, right? And so a little over a year ago, we saw some of that spread from MasterCard shrink, went under 1%. Now we're seeing, man, it's going back, right? It's over 1% now. So in regards to the specific question, any rate increases to note in level 3? I think there was another flavor. I think Bryant threw in a question about any changes to high ticket. No, all the good things are still good. So we love that.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, the next category that we had has to do with PayTrace's ability to optimize interchange. So one here is from Donnie, who is asking, does the information being collected at the point of sale by PayTrace affect the rates? I can tackle.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like something right up that I've heard you answer before. So Sam, you want that one?
Okay, yeah. So PayTrace, generally with PayTrace, there's a lot of different interchange qualifications that are out there. What our system is designed to do is that anytime that we see that there's a benefit to add more information to a transaction that could qualify for a better rate, for example, level 2 or level 3, right, we're going to do so. We're going to assist the merchant in submitting all of those necessary fields. We're taking a very complex process, and we're just trying to make that easier, right? Tip the scales back in favor to the merchants. Just as kind of a follow-up question that I see here, we had one from Patrick asking about, does PayTrace also optimize these rates on all products, right? For example, point of sale, mobile integrations, our virtual terminal. The answer is yes, right? Whenever a merchant is using PayTrace as the gateway to process and settle these transactions, it doesn't matter what type of solution that they're using. As long as it's one of those eligible types of transactions, PayTrace will optimize the interchange on that. So, Patrick, Donnie, really good questions.
Yeah, and I would call out too, Sam, that not so with some of our competitor products, right? And so a lot of our competitors require a lot of user interaction, right? Or maybe they require their developers to make changes to their code. And then the cool thing is that PayTrace has simplified that, right? So that user interaction, it's super important. We want our end users to be educated, but if they skip over something or they get busy, I used to call it the little league disaster, right? You're intending to get back to something, and then something happens, you have to rush home, right? And you never got to inputting that data. With PayTrace, it's going to be okay, right? We're gonna make sure those rates get their best opportunity to qualify at the lowest cost. So,
absolutely. Next question that we had lined up was from Mike, and Eric, I'm going to throw this one at you because it's tougher, and I don't want to answer it. Mike asks, how often is PayTrace seeing IRF and other increasing visa categories? So again, that non-qual umbrella, when the additional business-to-business data or level 2, level 3 data is being sent with normal transactions?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it highlights a lot of the intelligence system, right? And so Mike's asking a really smart question and saying, hey, if I add all this enhanced data, what does it do to some of these sales? Because a lot of our competitors, they really don't know what they're doing, just to be frank. And so they're just, I call it the spaghetti method. They're just throwing stuff at the wall and they hope it sticks, right? So they don't know if it's a consumer card or a corporate card, right? They can't tell if it's a purchasing card or who knows what. So they're just throwing everything out there and hoping that it gets the best rate. And the reality is you can put B2B data on a consumer card and it's just never going to get any better, right? I mean, it's just, you can't make that card change magically into a level 3 card. But if you're seeing IRF charges, Mark brings out a good point. I mean, that's not a good sign. Something's going wrong, right? And PayTrace can help with that. So we're not just a B2B solution. Certainly our specialty is B2B. And we love B2B clients. We're a B2B customer. If we feel like we understand that. But a lot of these consumer cards that you're seeing IRF, it's because they're not following a best practice of some kind. We could speculate. There's a ton of questions that go into that. Sam can address that at other times. But in general, I'll tell you, if you're seeing an IRF charge with PayTrace, you should probably call our help desk and we'll start chatting with you about what we can do to make that go away.
Love it. That's great. Yeah. IRF is being eliminated, but it is a downgrade, right? We want to avoid as many of those non-qualifieds as possible.
Interchange, formerly known as IRF.
It's just going to be a symbol now.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I think I'm going to tackle this next one because it's from my guy, Butch. Always love hearing from Butch.
Hi, Butch.
Hey, Butch. So Butch is asking, what would you say the top opportunities and categories are right now that we should take a look at? There's a couple ways I can answer this question. It could be with the current climate right now, the world's kind of in a weird way, or it could be with regards to these interchange updates, right? I would say, and feel free to add on to this, Eric, as well. Card not present transactions are kind of popular right now in the world, right? There's a little bit less face-to-face, and right now businesses are looking to adopt new technologies to process smarter, right? So
Totally agree.
I would say what can we look at businesses and make their payments processes better? How can we make accounts receivable easier? How can we get their cash flow more consistent? And products that come to mind for PayTrace are things like our payment link, our invoicing solutions. As far as industries categories, right? Business to business, so manufacturing, wholesale, distribution. Definitely feeling a hit presently, but there's a little bit more stability in some of those businesses. So, Eric, do you have anything that you wanted to chime in on that?
No, I mean, I love everything you're saying. And the other way to look at this too is, which businesses are spending money right now, right? And if you can find somebody that's making N95 masks, guess what? That's a target market for you right now, right? If you know somebody that's selling ventilators, they need help, right? So the same thing goes down to all the way down to the pizza shop at the corner that has never taken e-commerce before, right?
Yeah.
So the reality is it's a challenging market. I don't want to belittle that. Folks need help in making that easy. And Sam's absolutely correct. The card not present market it's dangerous, right? There's a lot of fraud. It can be expensive. We're talking about interchange, and they need an expert, a consultant to go in there with confidence and help folks navigate through that. So I would say right now that's where I would be spending all my time.
And I want to call out, Eric, you said something pretty relevant, right? Medical supplies is hot, especially now, but historically that has been PayTrace's number 2 most successful SIC code based on settled volume,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is that's all B2B, right? Doctors, hospitals are all purchasing from these medical suppliers. So that's a very stable market, right? They always need these tools, these equipment. So definitely, if you are looking at SIC codes, 5047, I've got that one memorized.
There you go. Awesome. And I would say too, stay tuned. There are going to be some changes. Visa's redefining what we used to know as emerging market. We're going to see that in October. They did, as we mentioned earlier, they brought out a couple new, new SIC codes. And so obviously still yet to see how that kind of plays out. But Visa wants to grow their market, right? And I think it's smart to try to align your business strategy where Visa is willing to spend some money, right? So it's a multiplier. So still green fields out there.
Oh, yeah. So Eric, you answered this question on our live call, but I really liked it and wanted to reiterate this one. So hopefully you can make it sound as good as before.
Well, here's for hoping.
Setting the bar high. So Peter asked, with regards to Visa consolidating a lot of these interchange rates into this big non-qualified category.
Yeah.
He's asking, won't it become much more difficult to identify where the merchant is going wrong if everything's now under this general non-qualified umbrella?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the summary version of my question, the answer was yes, it's going to be more difficult. And this is job security for you. Any salesperson in the field that's looked at statements, we joked about needing a decoder ring. And you need a decoder ring. I mean, I'm try to be really careful when I ascribe motive to people, like why they do this. But I have been in the industry long enough that you look at these statements and you're like, are these processors intentionally trying to make it difficult to understand these statements? And I think it is. You are going to have several interchange categories that now have that same generic title, non-qualified. And what does that even mean, right? Different card types qualifying with the same description. My suggestion is really hasn't changed over the years. This is an opportunity to talk with the merchant, find out what's going on in their environments, that they're not following a best practice, right? So Visa has some rules. Maybe those rules don't apply to that merchant, right? I mean, I remember talking with folks and they had a scenario where they really the Visa rules were really kind of difficult for them. It just wasn't a good fit. They had to make a business decision. Do I want to just pay the higher cost and know that I'm paying the higher cost, or can my business rules flex so that I can get some of these better rates? A lot of times though, it's just ignorance, right? They don't know they should be putting this in. Maybe their system doesn't support level 2. Maybe it's just not convenient. So their staff are just skipping over it because there's a long line. There's a lot of things that we get to dig into how merchants are actually processing and help them find out, why are you getting those non-qualified?
And you've said it before. I'm going to take an example from your back pocket, Eric, is I remember hearing from you, it might've been on a Power 30, but you had a merchant one time that was downgrading, couldn't figure out why the heck. You looked through all their transaction history, they're doing everything right. And then you found out it was how their phone number was formatted that they were sending through.
Yeah, we had an issue where, on one platform, it happened to be First Data, but there was a series where having a dash in the phone number was causing it not to qualify. I mean, who knew? I mean, not consistent at all. Another one that's real tricky is MCC code, right? You're dealing with someone, you think they're a restaurant, but they're classified as something else, right? And so the rules don't don't match. And so even though they think they have something right, those ones can be really tricky. So yeah, there's a lot there for sure.
Just on a lighter note, moving down this list that I have, you know the next one that's coming up. So on the Power 30, I was wearing an Oregon Ducks polo. I'd kind of planned on that in advance. That's right, go Ducks. I'm a Duck. I'm an Oregon alumni. But we were going into the basketball tournaments, and we were doing really well, and then just didn't pan out. But just so happened to be St. Patrick's Day, so it worked. But William threw in a comment in the chat box saying Sabrina Ionescu equals GOAT, GOAT, greatest of all time. So shout out to Sabrina, best NCAA basketball player of all time. The stats show it. So
it's pretty amazing. Real encouragement for women's basketball, and just super fun to watch as a basketball player, quite frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. So appreciated that shout out. So that was a softball. I'll take the next one as well, if you're cool with that, Eric.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, this one's coming from Lisa, and kind of off topic from this whole interchange conversation, but looking towards the future, will we be doing EMV in the future on First Data? Now, I'll talk at a high level. Eric might have some information that maybe I don't know about, but the plan is yes. We are rolling out a new EMV solution here very shortly, which we're very excited about. It's going to be using an ID Tech Augusta device, which I think we've shown on one of these previous webinars. We're going to begin beta testing on that. The initial rollout will be on TSYS, much like our existing EMV solution with the Ingenico device, but we're looking towards moving forward on a First Data certification on that. Eric, you're not going to make me chop that out of the recording, right?
No.
Okay.
We're excited. I mean, I know there's been a couple of these, hey, we're working on this, and I'm always trying to reel my team and say, what are we working on in the next 2 weeks, so that we can deliver on that. I'll tell you, we actually got a transaction to approve. Saw that on the show and tell recently, right? So we are actually having sales approve on the new, Rapid Connect platform. So it is coming along. Our attention to get that on Rapid Connect, which is going to give us a lot more front ends for you guys that are on the First Data shop. So we won't have the limitation of only North, right? So that will be cool. And the intention is after that to add on EMV. So we're going to continue steaming forward. We realize that's a really important aspect of the EMV rollout. So keep asking, Lisa. We'll just keep telling you it's coming. And the day that it's ready, trust me, we're going to be doing another one of these and talking about how you can sign up and use it. So
awesome. That's fantastic. I'm sure our First Data offices are very happy about that.
For sure.
Last couple questions coming down to it. These ones are more educational questions than anything, so I figured I'm going to throw both of these your way, Eric.
All right, try me.
First one's from Keith, and Keith is asking, with PayTrace Go, which is our mobile app, without a card reader, but the card user signs for the transaction, you can sign on the device. Are those transactions distinguished as card not present?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I even appreciate Keith putting in he writes CNP, right? So we got that insider lingo, card not present. Really important to understand interchange. So card not present is very different than retail key enter. And so, there's a significant risk profile difference between when the customer is right there in front of you, and you can say hi to him, and you can tell he doesn't look creepy, and you tried swiping his card and it's not working, and you can look at the card and it's not tampered with, and so you can type in the card number, right? That's a very different risk profile than, say, a card that's coming in over the phone, or even different from the internet. So each one of those, phone order and e-commerce, have different transaction types. So to answer Keith's question, are those distinguished as card not present? The answer is no. They're actually distinguished as retail key enter. And so they have different criteria. And so later on, you can ask Sam, well, what about address verification? What are the requirements for those? Well, they're different. right? And that's job security for you to know the difference between those types of transactions and educate your customers. We won't quiz Sam now, but there is a difference.
I was going to say, is that job security for me or is that job security for Keith?
Job security for Keith. You're good, man.
All right, cool. I've got that recorded, so we're good.
Yeah.
I think we're coming down to the last one, which is from Greg. And Greg's asking a little bit of a specific question. So, Eric, what do you recommend for a Fortune 100 who refuses to use zip code because of the fear of friction and losing people at the shopping cart, or just taking longer in that payment process?
Yeah, it's a really great question. Number one, kudos to be working with the Fortune 100, right? I mean, that's a big fish, and that poses its own series of complications when you're working at the enterprise level. And so this will just be one of many problems. This was, though, a good lesson for all of us that interchange conversation is not the only conversation that a sales rep needs to have. In fact, I really encourage folks to use this just as the entry point, right, to establish yourself as the expert and move into the consulting roles, right? So big organizations have a better understanding of the cost of payroll and the cost of time. And so there is a pain point there where people are like, look, if I have to type this in, it's going to, that's a cost. In fact, Scott Judkins will tell you the story about the reason we do level 3 was that somebody was like, I'm not having my people type in all these fields, right? They just straight up told him, Scott, I'm not going to do it. So he's like, hey, how can I leverage technology to make it easier? So we're not just about the efficiency, I call it fiscal efficiency, right? The saving of money on interchange, but we're also really keen on operational efficiency. How much time are we saving? And for a lot of people, time is the most valuable resource. They're never going to get that back. So there is a balance. There is a balance for that. The question that Greg asked is, two large companies refusing to enter zip code. Zip code primarily is address verification. There is an interchange component with that, and there's a risk component, right? It has a big impact on chargebacks after the sale. And so, when I'm talking with a large organization like that, I do, start to balance that out of, well, how much time is it going to take you to get that data and enter it? And, what's the return on doing that, right? What is it going to cost you extra? And that's where knowing the expert difference of if they're retail or card not present or e-commerce makes a big difference on that risk profile and the risk for chargebacks. At the end of the day, I would say for PayTrace, we can automate some of that, right? And so we can actually just make it go away, the miracle of technology. And so that can solve that problem. But I encourage everyone, when you start hitting problems like that, take a step back, ask more questions, and really allow yourself to take on that consultative role. And really that should allow you to position away from money, right? At the end of the day, we definitely want to save our clients some money, but if we can save them time as well, I mean, that's a big deal, right? Especially right now, I need time back, right? So does that answer that question? Kind of went all over the place, Sam.
I think you answered that 10 times better than I would have. So,
old. So,
well, guys, that was all the questions that we had remaining. If you have any more questions following this, especially come April, once these interchange rates start coming up, and you want to start tackling some of these opportunities and your merchants start asking questions, please keep us in the loop. Like Eric said, we've got a great support team that wants to be a resource for you to help be successful and make your merchants happy. Also, Eric's team here in the sales department are more than happy to work with you on some of these opportunities. Eric, do you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I do love Greg's question. And one of the things that can wrap all of this up is interchange is a very complicated subject. And when you can get some help on that, it's great. So Sam mentioned earlier, Love of Money page, right? Interchange optimization on our website. Make that one of your favorites. I'd also go over to our help site and figure out where can you schedule a demo. It's been a great way for me to land a bunch of business because now you can have one of our PayTrace professionals do a live demo, ask those questions like, how is this going to work? And make sure it's a good fit for your customer. And at the end of the day, what I love about that is if it goes totally sideways, you can just blame PayTrace, right? You still have the merchant. But if it goes great, then you can just kind of sweep in and say, look, how do we close the deal, right? If it's a good fit. And so I really encourage folks to take advantage of that, especially maybe for their big clients, or if there's a new technology that you're just not comfortable with. Eventually, you'll be able to do those demos on your own after you've seen 5 or 10. Probably won't need that. But even though I could demo PayTrace a lot, I still have folks demo that for me just because it's a great sales technique. So check out those 2 pages, interchange optimization, and be familiar with demoing. It can really help you close these accounts as it relates to interchange optimization.
Yeah, good call out. I would add to that, if you are watching this on YouTube right now, check the links in the description. We will have links to both of those pages so you can find those without trying to hunt those down.
That's great.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned for the next little while. We'll be having a lot more of these types of calls coming up. So again, subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our blog, and keep us posted on what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, you guys.